It happens in the silent, dark space between sleep and waking. A battle erupts between the person you settled for and the person you were meant to become, between the gravitational pull of the mattress and the magnetic pull of your destiny. Have you noticed how in those first fragile moments your mind begins its campaign of surrender before you've even opened your eyes? It doesn't shout, it murmurs. Then you hit snooze. You're tired, rest a little more. That voice is not you. It is the internal saboteur, fed by your indecision, your comfort, and your deepest fears. Its sole purpose is to keep you small, to ensure you live a life of quiet compromise while clutching dormant, extraordinary potential. Waking up isn't just about opening your eyes, it's about opening awareness. And awareness hurts before it sets you free. Imagine this. Each day is a blank check. The first endorsement you write sets the value for everything that follows. This is why titans of industry, visionary leaders, and self-made masters treat the dawn as sacred ground. They know that he who controls the genesis of the day controls the trajectory of his life. You are not failing for a lack of intelligence. You are failing for a lack of definite direction the moment consciousness returns. You are squandering your most potent minutes wrestling your lowest impulses. But that ends today. Are you ready for it to end? Because winning the morning's mental war isn't about motivation, it's about the mastery of your inner territory. Life doesn't respect the waiter, it respects the initiator. And to initiate is an act of rebellion against everything that weakens you. Breathe that in. Feel the weight of what I'm telling you. Today, you will not wake as a victim of your thoughts. You will wake as their commander-in-chief. Today, you decide the victor, you or your impulses. And if you stay with me, I will show you the exact repeatable strategy to win this war every single day of your life. Pay close attention. If you want to transform your mornings, you must hear this. In the early light, there is a voice within you that doesn't speak in words, but in sensations. It disguises itself as fatigue, hides behind a sigh, uses the heaviness of your limbs as its primary evidence. It is the oldest voice you know, the most practiced, the most persuasive. It doesn't try to knock you down with force, but with distorted logic. It doesn't scream, give up. It whispers, just recover a little more. That's how it wins, not by attack, but by negotiation. Picture your mind as a command center with unlocked doors. Overnight, as you slept, this voice walked the halls, rearranged the files, and poisoned the well of your resolve. By the time you awaken, it has staged the perfect scene to convince you that today is not the ideal day to begin. It is a silent usurper. It doesn't steal your money, it steals your first decisions, and those decisions architect your destiny. But here is what almost no one realizes. This voice doesn't lie blatantly. It deals in half-truths. It says you're exhausted, and you do feel tired. It says you've earned 7 more minutes, and you truly believe you have. This is the trap. Do you think this is wisdom? A half-truth is always more dangerous than a full lie because it persuades you without a fight. Think of this voice as a treacherous advisor wearing the uniform of an ally. He taps on your door at dawn and says, "Stand down, I will handle your life later." And you hand him the codes to your day, and the entire day is lost. And tomorrow the same advisor returns with the same soothing tone, the same empty promise. He is patient. He has time. He knows that if he dominates your mornings, he dominates your entire life. Now listen carefully. You do not defeat this voice by arguing with it, nor by trying to convince yourself you should get up. Wait, what? Yes, you defeat it by exposing its structure. The saboteur only functions when heard in the dark. When you flood the room with light, it disintegrates. So ask yourself this the very instant you awake. Who is speaking now? Is it my creator or my coward? When you ask this question, something tectonic shifts. The internal imposter loses its disguise. It doesn't know how to be strong, it only knows how to be in disguise. The mind creates illusions like a weary old magician repeating the same tired tricks for decades. The excuses you hear today are identical to the ones you heard 5 years ago. Nothing has changed, only your belief in them has renewed. This is why if you want to win the war for your mind, you must see these illusions for what they are, an antiquated script you recite on autopilot. To wake up is to shatter the script. To wake up is to choose direction over excuse. To wake up is to place truth ahead of sensation. Are you ready for this? Because from this point forward, you will no longer treat your mind as an invincible foe, but as a decodable system. Listen to me now, for what I will reveal is one of the most ignored truths by those who wake defeated daily. The first 5 minutes decide the fate of your entire day. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday, what challenges await, or what your mood might be. The architecture of your day is born in the instant your mind stirs awake. Imagine your consciousness is a war room. The moment your eyes open, the internal generals take their seats around the table.
Discipline, doubt, sloth, fear, impulse, courage. They all await an order. They all wait for someone to assume command. The problem is, on most mornings, the one who takes that seat is not you, it is your impulses. The human mind was engineered to conserve energy. It tries to hoard effort before you've even attempted anything. This is why your body feels anchored, your breath seems shallow, your thoughts pull you back toward the pillow. This isn't weakness, it's ancient programming. But here is the detail that separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The extraordinary know this programming does not rule them, they rule it. The first 5 minutes are not about leaving the bed, they are about declaring who holds the rank. They are your first strategic victory, the first micro-command that realigns the entire mental battalion. You think it's just about getting up? No. When you decide to move despite the resistance, you send a signal straight to the brain. Today, I am in command. This single act releases action-oriented neurotransmitters, increases blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, the region governing decision, focus, and planning, and slowly deactivates the regions responsible for fear and flight. This is neuroscience, not cheap motivation. The brain learns rapidly from patterns. The first victory establishes a pattern. It declares, today I act in spite of what I feel, and the rest of the day falls into line. Now envision this with me. Your mind is an entire army awaiting orders. Discipline is the most loyal soldier. Sloth is the loudest. Fear is the most dramatic. Anxiety is the one who sees danger in shadows. But there is one general, and that general should be you. Yet for years, you've let the troops govern themselves, and a leaderless troop descends into chaos. This is why your life feels disordered, your days muffled, your energy leaking. You don't lack strength, you lack command. Those first morning minutes are your moment to slam the table and say, "Silence, henceforth I decide." And when you assume that command, it's not just your body that obeys, your entire mind reorganizes. The mental troop functions on hierarchy. If sloth speaks first and you obey, you spend the day dragging. If fear speaks first and you cower, nothing significant is built. If impulse speaks first, you lose focus and purpose. But if you, the general, speak first, everything aligns. Each morning micro-victory reprograms your brain like tuning an instrument before a symphony, a slight adjustment that completely changes the sound. This is why you must treat these minutes as sacred. Winning this first battle isn't about rising, it's about occupying the internal throne. It's about declaring sovereignty. It's about teaching your mind to serve you, not sabotage you. because in the final analysis, the mind is a magnificent servant, but a terrible master, and you have let it master you for far too long. So stop betraying yourself immediately. Every time you say 5 more minutes, it records it as a betrayal. When these micro-betrayals accumulate, you lose internal authority. You become like a general whose first order of the day is advance, and his own army ignores him. And do you know why? Because you taught your troops not to take you seriously. Your mind isn't evil, it's strategic. It knows you are vulnerable upon waking and seizes the chance to negotiate with you like a lawyer expert in loopholes. It offers you comfort in exchange for control, gives you drowsiness in trade for direction, offers laziness in return for command. If you yield early, you've lost the war before ever stepping onto the field. Therefore, your first daily commitment is sacred. It's not about productivity, it's about internal leadership. And here is where it becomes powerful. You don't win this battle with willpower, you win with mental engineering. You must outmaneuver the saboteur before it can formulate its arguments. First, move the alarm clock across the room. When you are forced to rise, you break the saboteur's chain of command. Another trigger, immediate light. Darkness protects the illusion. Light destroys the fantasy of just 5 more. It's like shining a spotlight on the internal thief trying to rob your morning. And there is something even more powerful, the 10-second rule. Move before your mind formulates its first sentence of sabotage. If you act before the argument, you win. This is how a commander acts, not by waiting for the council to debate, but by issuing the order and advancing. The mind should follow, not lead. The troops should obey, not command. You are the general. The troop is the mind. When the troop leads, chaos reigns. Another simple yet flawless strategy, lay out your clothes the night before. This eliminates cognitive friction. Waking up and having to decide is like trying to start a machine with cold gears. It will seize. Reduce decisions. Lubricate the system. And when you splash water on your face, make it cold. That is a command. It is a seal stating the day has commenced and I am in authority here. Micro-victories like these seem small, but they are tectonic, because the first 5 minutes are not merely 5 minutes. They are the official announcement of who is in command of your life that day.
Now, breathe deeply. Because you have just understood what almost no one perceives. The day never begins when the sun rises. The day begins when you decide to lead your mind before it leads you. Imagine a fortress being tested at its most vulnerable point. This is what the mind does at dawn. It tests your vulnerability. It knows that if it can defeat you in the first minutes, the entire remainder of the day organizes itself around that weakness. Now envision something crucial. Before the world challenges you with bills, people, problems, and chaos, you challenge yourself. And this battle decides everything, because failure never starts when you lose something big. It starts when you lose the first battle of the day. The battle to rise when you don't want to act when you don't feel like it, to begin while resistance still exists. The mind anticipates pain. It projects discomfort before it exists. It makes you believe that rising will be suffering, that acting will be burdensome, that facing the day will be arduous. But here is a truth no one has told you with sufficient clarity. You will always feel pain. There is no path without pain. Pain is part of any process, even the process of failure. So the question was never how to avoid pain, but which pain are you willing to endure? For there are only 2 pains in life, the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Which pain have you been choosing every morning? The pain of rising, facing, acting, building, or the pain of procrastinating, surrendering, and stagnating? The pain of discipline constructs you. The pain of regret destroys you, slowly, silently, without you noticing how much you are fading away. Understand this once and for all. Each morning is a portal, and your mind guards this portal like an implacable sentry. If you don't pass the test, you don't live the day, you merely survive it. But when you win this first engagement, the entire world bends before your internal strength, for there is no external victory for the one who loses his internal battle at dawn. Now I ask you directly, will you continue to let your mind defeat you before the sun even crests the horizon? Or will you assume command and show it who gives the orders? This is where your day begins, and this is where your life changes. He who fears the pain of discipline ends up sampling both, the sting of effort and the agony of never having tried. The mind of the weak seeks comfort. The mind of the strong seeks purpose. Hear this attentively. Procrastination is not a lack of desire. It is a lack of command. When you fail to assume the post of leader of your own mind, it assumes it for you, and it always chooses the cheapest, easiest, and most destructive path.
Another non-negotiable truth. Whoever loses the first battle of the day loses all others by consequence. Morning discipline is the invisible cement that sustains your mental structure for the coming hours. Inscribe this within yourself. Your thoughts are the architects. Your habits are the builders. Your decisions are the bricks. The life you live is merely the final construction of what you have thought, practiced, and repeated for years. Now, absorb something even more profound. The mind creates monsters out of small things and crafts excuses out of large ones. It minimizes what you should confront and magnifies what you should ignore. Hold this law. The distance between you and the life you desire is not time, it is discipline. For time everyone has, discipline few assume. Another sentence to tattoo on your soul. He who does not control his own mind will always work for he who does. This is the hardest truth of success. The world is commanded by people who learn to master their internal dialogue. And here comes another blow of consciousness. You do not fail when you err. You fail when you grow accustomed to erring. Every mistake can be redone. The habit of making excuses is what destroys. Pay attention now, for this is the master key. Your mind does not respect your intentions, it only respects your actions. You can wish, plan, dream, but none of that builds internal respect. The only thing the mind obeys is what you do repeatedly. Hold to one of the oldest and truest laws of life. An undisciplined mind creates a wretched destiny, no matter its talents. And the converse is equally real. A disciplined mind transforms any ordinary person into someone extraordinary. Pay attention now, for I will deliver to you 10 laws for victory in your internal war. A complete practical guide of strategy, mechanism, and command. The mind is a sophisticated machine, but it follows predictable principles. He who understands these principles masters the day, masters the life. Law 1. Recognize the two natures. There is a difference between what your spirit wants and what your flesh wants. Your spirit wants evolution. Your flesh wants comfort. Your spirit wants discipline. Your flesh wants repetition. Your spirit wants change. Your flesh wants to preserve energy. This war is natural, but only one side can command. And if you do not consciously choose who gives the order, the flesh assumes it, and the flesh always chooses the path of least resistance.
Therefore, the first law is simple. Win before you think. Do not negotiate with the mind at dawn. Negotiating with the mind at dawn is like negotiating with an enemy who has studied your weaknesses for decades. Rise before you think. Move. Act before you argue. Action silences the internal voice that seeks to chain you to the floor.
Law 2. Issue micro-commands. Do not declare, "I will change my life today." Command, "I will sit up. Then I will stand. Then I will drink water. Then I will make the bed." The mind respects sequence, not grand proclamations. Small, inarguable commands create micro-victories, and micro-victories create traction. A body in motion generates a mind in motion, and a mind in motion expels laziness like a sovereign expels rebels from his kingdom. Law 3. Re-educate the flesh. Understand, the flesh does not sabotage you out of malice, it sabotages you out of primitive calculation. It associates effort with pain and tries to protect you, but it cannot differentiate between productive pain, growth, and destructive pain, stagnation. You must teach it. When you rise despite lethargy, the flesh learns that lethargy has no authority. When you act despite fear, the flesh learns that fear is not the governor. When you execute despite a lack of feeling like it, the flesh learns that feeling is a bonus, not a prerequisite. Law 4. Engineer your environment. Create rituals that eliminate internal debate. Alarm across the room. You rise by physical necessity. Clothes prepared. You reduce decisive friction. Phone untouched. You avoid mental hijacking. Do not rely on fluctuating motivation. Rely on a constructed environment. A well-engineered environment wins battles that willpower alone would forever lose. Law 5. Simplify the start, complicate the retreat. If the act of beginning is easy, beginning becomes habit. If the path back to bed is difficult, retreat never occurs. The war of the mind is won in the design of the path, not the intensity of the desire. Law 6. Decode the saboteur's script. The mind tests you before the day tests you. It launches thoughts like, "Not today, you're drained, it won't make a difference." Do not respond. Do not argue. Do not negotiate. Just act. Action is the only language the mind truly respects. Every time you act in spite of the internal voice, you send a direct command to the brain. I lead, you follow. Over time, this voice loses its power. It doesn't vanish, but it falls silent when it perceives it has no authority over you. Law 7. Choose your pain. You will feel pain, either the pain of effort or the pain of regret, the pain of growth or the pain of decay, the pain of advancing or the pain of being left behind. Humanity has no option to live without pain. You only choose which pain you will carry, and believe this, the pain of discipline is a feather compared to the anvil of looking at your own life and knowing you could have been more, but chose less. Law 8. Honor your word to yourself. This is the bedrock of self-trust. Every time you promise yourself something and fulfill it, you strengthen your identity as a leader. Every time you promise and fail, you destroy internal credibility. The mind will not follow a leader who does not keep his own word. Discipline is born from self-confidence, and self-confidence is born from an honored word. Law 9. The throne is never empty. Every mind has a commander. Either it is you, or it is the voice of sloth. Either it is you, or it is the specter of fear.
Either it is you or it is the tyranny of impulse. The mental troop always follows someone. If you do not declare yourself leader, the troop will claim the throne and lead you into the abyss. Law 10. Treat the mind as a system, not an enemy. You finally conquer the mind when you cease treating it as a foe and start treating it as a machine. Machines obey code. The code is this: action before emotion, command before excuse, discipline before desire. Now, I want you to prove to yourself that you are ready to advance. Comment below with just one phrase: I command my mind. Write it as a declaration, not a wish. When you write it, you record it. When you record it, you assume it. And when you assume it, the mind begins to obey. No mental battle is ever won by accident. It is won by the one who decides that his life will no longer be commanded by impulse, sloth, fear, or the old script that has dragged him for years. You have come this far because something within you has finally awakened. That pull you feel in the core of your chest is not temporary motivation. It is your definite chief aim knocking on the door of your awareness, saying, "My time is now." The mind respects only one thing: continuity. And continuity is born from a single, firm, non-negotiable decision. Starting today, you do not wake as a victim, you wake as a commander. You do not react to the day, you initiate the day. You do not wait for your mind to obey, you assume command before it can attempt a coup. Because now you know the ultimate truth. The first voice to speak within you at dawn is the chorus of basic fears, but the last voice standing, the one with true authority, is the spirit of persistent discipline. Your daily victory begins in the instant you rise, even without the feeling. It begins with that one small, solid movement that reprograms the brain, demolishes the old pattern, and forges a new destiny. If this connected with you, let me know. Subscribe, because from here forward we are elevating your mental standard day after day. Activate notifications, for every new piece of content will be another weapon for your internal arsenal, and you cannot afford to miss a single one. The war for your mind is daily, but you are no longer entering it unarmed. You now have strategy, you now have clarity, you now have command. And from this moment forward, everything in your life will begin to respond to this new posture. Remember this as you close this page. The world respects those who lead their own minds. You have just assumed that rank. Let's go to the top.